My name is Justin Yomot. Welcome back to the CNT podcast. This week I have my good friend Tommy.
Hello.
Today we'll be doing another debate, Derek Jeter versus Mike Trout. I will be arguing on Derek Jeter's behalf.
And I'm going to be arguing for Mike Trout.
So let's hop right on into it. My first stat I want to show is Derek Jeter won the championship 5 times in his career, which is very impressive and something that Trout has yet to do. I do believe he will win 1 to 2, but I do not think he will reach Jeter's 5.
Yeah, I think you also have to consider, yes, World Series wins are very important, and Jeter's World Series MVP is also very important. But I think that the bigger thing about the World Series titles, and the reason I have a problem with comparing player to player with the World Series titles, is that Derek Jeter had a host of players that if he was having a bad day, if he had a bad night last night, he could go out on the field next day and have one bad game and rely on the rest of the players to carry the slack. Trout doesn't have that luxury. Trout has to perform at his peak day in and day out in order for the Angels to have a fleeting chance of winning.
Now, I agree and disagree with that. I feel like Jeter was always the best player on his team, except for maybe the last few years in the first 1 or 2. And he was that leader of the team. Even if he was playing bad, he would still be that motivational guy to motivate the team, which would help the team still. And about the Trout thing, yes, Trout hasn't had as good of teammates, but he hasn't had bad teammates. Like last year, he had Rendon, and he's had Andrelton Simmons, he's had Pools, he's had solid guys where he didn't have to be perfect for them to win. Yes, he had to play to some point of good, but he never had to be the best player on the field for the Angels. He had a player or two at least for every season, excluding maybe 1 or 2 that could step up in those nights if need be.
Yeah, I think the biggest key for Jeter's teams was the pitching, honestly, because we haven't had a really good, even a decent closer in on the Angels rather. I can't say LA, but on the Angels since maybe Houston Street.
Yeah, I mean, I fully agree. Pitching is a huge aspect of baseball, and the Angels haven't had that, which is why I hope Trevor Bauer signs those because I may be arguing against my Trout right now, but I am a huge Trout fan, and I want to see him succeed, especially with the Cubs losing a lot of pitchers. Like, if a team were to win, I would prefer the Angels, and I agree with that. He hasn't had as good of a team, but you make it sound like he's been on the Orioles or the Tigers when he's had something. He's competed for a playoff spot before. It's not like he's been on a terrible team his whole career. He's been on a terrible team for seasons, yes, a good team and a decent team. He's never been consistently on a bad team.
Yeah, I think that's the luxury that's given Mike Trout the ability to get to where he is today, is the fact that he was on a decent team. It wasn't, like you said, it wasn't Tigers, it wasn't the Orioles quality of losing game after game after game, but it was just just meh.
Yeah,
And I
I
think that's
agree.
what's given him that platform.
I agree. I agree. I mean, I feel like if he was on a team like the Orioles, he'd possibly be better in some categories and worse in others. Like RBIs would probably be down, but other things would probably be up. I mean, but and then again, if he was on the Dodgers, his production would probably be a little lower on some ends. Like he was put into the situation to be the generational player. Like he had the potential to be this generational player, and he achieved that. And I feel like his role in the Angels allowed him to develop perfectly and be this generational player.
Yeah, 100%.
And on Jeter's behalf, he could have gone into any situation and be great as Trout could. Now here's what I'm trying to get out is Trout could go into any situation and be great, but because he went into a decent team, he was able to be phenomenal. Jeter, on the other hand, went into a super team and was great, and so Trout may be the better player overall, but Jeter went into a better situation, which helped with the ring spot. But he was still generational talent, and I feel like he would be phenomenal anywhere he went. Well, Trout could be phenomenal in most places, but not all places.
Yeah, I think it is a very good um, quality that Jeter has is the fact that he was the best player on those Yankees that were amazing. I mean, you can draw on very few other teams that could even match the star power across all sports, the star power that those Yankees teams put together with Rivera and many others.
I agree. I agree. Another thing is Jeter was overall he was the better fielder. He got 4 Gold Gloves and honestly deserved more. He honestly, in my opinion, competed in a tougher league. Now there's a lot of just better teams, but in that time there was a lot of good teams. I feel like he played in the harder era, and
Yeah,
so I just feel like his fielding was a lot better than Trout's is. Not again, not saying Trout is a terrible fielder. He is a great fielder and honestly one of the best in today's MLB. But I feel like Jeter was a bit better and played more of a harder defensive position at shortstop.
yeah, definitely. I mean, there's very specific stats and very niche stats that we could go to, but I don't feel the need too much of. But I just want to talk about the fielding overall. Yes, I don't believe this award had been instated when Jeter was around, but the Wilson now every year awards the overall defensive player of the year award. And while the Gold Glove is you get one Gold Glove every position, right? So, but Mike Trout was the best fielder in all of baseball one year, and I believe that's I just think that's incredible to think about because it doesn't matter what era you're living in. To have a fielder who's the best in the league is amazing talent.
I agree, and he's like I think he's been the best defensive player in the entire league more than 1 year. I think possibly maybe up to 5 years, and I don't think Jeter was the best defender in his entire league that much. I say 1 to 2 years max, but then again that just goes back. I feel like the league when during Jeter's time was more competitive, meaning he had more competition to be the greatest. Yes, no matter what, it will be hard to be the best defender, but I feel like Jeter had a tougher era and more competition for that, including his own teammate Alex Rodriguez.
Yes, definitely. Oh, and by the way, 2012 was the first year that the award was given out, so
Yeah.
it was on the waning end of Jeter's career, meaning he probably wouldn't have earned it.
hmm I agree, but I think like during his early in prime, he would have won it if it were around.
I believe so as well. I mean, Jeter's most iconic play, one could argue, is the throw off his back foot and somehow miraculously reaching. Everybody knows the play.
Everyone does. And here's to go into that. I was like, everyone in basketball when they shoot a shot or trash say Kobe. And honestly, when you make that play in real life or in the game, you say Jeter. Like Jeter is to the MLB what Kobe was to the NBA.
Yeah, I think the way I look at Jeter, Kobe, and that I mean like Jeter, Kobe, Trout, and maybe like a LeBron. Because I mean, just the comparisons I'm drawing here are like Jeter had an influence that transcended the sport, but I think, um, but I believe that Trout is more in the GOAT conversation.
See, I love how you brought that up. It says I compare Jeter to Kobe. I agree. I'm not saying here's what I'm saying is right now Jeter is the better player. And however, when Trout retires, I don't expect Jeter to be. I compare Trout to Jordan. My opinion is Jordan is the GOAT. I see Trout as a Jordan, inspiration to the game. However, I also compare Kobe, who's top five, and he's in my top three, to Jeter, who again, for sure top five, again in my top three, as Kobe is more was more important to the game of basketball. Like he helped revive a dying league at one point, and I feel like Jeter kind of did the same. Like after the era of steroids, like Jeter helped keep people going, and like he helped revive a dying sport and a dying industry. And so yes, Trout will probably become better. However, I feel like Jeter will always be more inspirational than Trout, as Kobe is more inspirational than Jordan is, even though Jordan is the better player.
Yeah, I agree. I think my biggest problem with these baseball goat conversations is the fact that it always comes to Ruth, Hank Aaron, rest in peace, and I find it frustrating that it's the home run kings. I feel like there's so much more that Trout has to offer than just home runs.
I fully agree. I mean, this way kind of just thrown into us talking about them. And again, rest in peace, Adrian. Like, it's hard. I don't love talking as in top three. Like, I don't love how this went as with Trout is top one, Jeter's top three, because I don't believe in a true baseball goat. I feel like there's a goat outfielder, there's a goat infielder, there's a goat pitcher, and there's a goat catcher. It's like, how do you compare someone like Jacob DeGrom to Mike Trout? Like, you can't, because they do two totally different things. Like, it's different. Like in the NFL, you can't compare Deion Sanders to Joe Montana. They do two completely different things.
Yeah, I think that I think that's the biggest deal. I think we have to focus. Like I think it's important we just zone in on these two. Is that is I think the most influential statistic in modern stat keeping. WAR, wins above replacement. And what I find interesting is that Trout has three more. I think that's very interesting. He is more influential. Well, yes, it does make sense. I think it does make sense because the Angels would suffer without him. I think that I think that it's still amazing that Jeter, who we've all regarded before Trout came along as one of the greatest baseball players to ever bless this earth. So I think that's very interesting to think about as well.
I agree. I mean, wins above replacement is very important. And to go with that, I mean, you gotta look at teams. Jeter was on a better team and who had more competition fighting for that spot. Well, the Angels, they're a lower market team. I mean, yes, they're in LA, but there's not a ton to attract them. It's Trout and LA. That's about it. Why you would want to go there, and money, if some players are only wanting money, of course. And so, like, it's hard to count wins above replacement when they're two totally different markets. Maybe you could say that with LA Dodgers and LA Angels, but with completely different sides of with New York and LA, it's kind of hard to do that. Yeah, they're both high market, but the Angels have had very not great luck with free agency apart from Rendon in the past few years.
Yeah, I think the thing people always focus on is LA, it's the big market, not for the Angels. They're the ugly stepbrother of these big market teams. You have the Knicks, the Yankees, the Clippers, the Lakers, the Dodgers. You have all these teams in these two big markets on both coasts.
Mm-hmm.
But
Oh
when
no,
it
you
comes
could
down
also
to it,
argue the Mets could be in that.
what with the Angels?
No, the Mets in that high end.
Yeah, with Steve Cohen buying them, especially with
Mm-hmm.
$2.4 billion.
Yeah,
But I
Steve
think that
Cohen. This is a little off topic, but I feel like he's gonna bring multiple titles to the Mets.
yeah, but I think that what they've done, I think they've done enough that Trout is able to carry the. I mean, like he's gotten 798 RBIs in 11 seasons to Jeter's 1,311 in 20 seasons, right?
Right.
I find that impressive because he's able to get these to players who aren't the quality of players that Jeter has had around. So that percentage of doing it in the number of seasons to equal it out is better in Trout's favor.
I agree, but to kind of argue that, I mean, you can't really argue that, but like Jeter had 260 home runs, which is amazing. He didn't play in a home run hitting time. And I'm gonna guess Trout is either above that in home runs or very not far behind.
Yeah, Trout is about 60 ahead of it. He is
Yeah, it's
Derek Jeter is
more.
at 260. Trout is at 302, so he's
Yeah,
42
so
ahead.
yeah, so he Trout. I mean, Jeter played a little bit in that home run hitting time, but not for in his prime years. Well, Trout's prime years was the prime years of hitting home runs, and so
Yeah, I
that
think
that helps RBIs, no
yeah,
question about it.
Jeter's problem is that he was sandwiched in between the two home run eras, the steroid era and now a league that's
Hmm.
focused offense, 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 offense all the time.
Hmm. That's one thing I don't love is because offense wins games, but defense always wins championships, and so I feel like that puts Jeter ahead as of right now. It says he had the defense and he won the championships.
Yeah, I think the most important part is that in today's league, it's more about who has the better offense versus defense. It's no longer this great offense versus this great defense. It's these two offenses. Which team just has more star and firepower?
I agree, and that's why I'm really liking this Mariners team they're developing. Is they'll they have decent offense, but they're more of a defensive team, and I believe that defense can help them in 5 years. I've stated this many times. I believe that Mariners team will compete very soon. In five
Yeah,
years, I think they will be arguably the best team in the league. And that's another thing with the Mets is they're kind of a defense team. They're known for their pitching. Their starting pitchers is a top three. Same with Padres and Dodgers. They're also top three. Like they have good pitching. Dodgers still an offensive team, but they still have that pitching. Padres, I see them as a defensive team, which is why I might end up rooting for them in the playoffs if the Cubs don't make it.
yeah. I think the other thing to note with Jeter and Trout, respectively, is the length of seasons. I mean, yes, Jeter. I mean, Jeter has had. I think it's about the same, but I think that playing in these truncated seasons without, like with the knowledge of doing so, I think is hard. Trout has also missed, I think, more games. Jeter's missed 2 seasons when he back in 2013, I believe he tore his ACL. I mean, he did. I mean, he had a major injury, and then he was a September call up, I believe, in 1995. So I think Jeter and Trout, I think both have this going for them is their consistency.
Hmm. I agree. I agree. Another point is that about the RBIs again. I'm just wanting to bring this up. Is Jeter didn't get a lot of hits from home runs like I mentioned earlier, but he did like he's not known as a home run hitter, but he's known for getting on base with his on career on base percentage being 377, which is one of the best. And he's known for getting on base, which is something Trout does, yes. But Trout like they kind of had two different type of games, like Jordan and Kobe did. Like they were similar in ways but different. Just like Trout and Jeter are different, which is why it's hard to compare them, especially with Trout still being in the league.
Yeah, I think we'll get it. I think they're very evenly matched now. I think by the end of Trout's career, with the trajectory he's on, barring a horrific injury, I think it won't even be a debate come the end of his career.
Agreed. And I say for now it's Jeter, but in the long run it will be Trout. And I'm gonna go back to this comparison. Jeter is what to the MLB what Kobe is to the NBA, and Trout is what Jordan was to the NBA for the MLB, and I see them as very similar.
Yeah, I just think that it's tied and maybe even a slight edge to Trout. He has just going back to my original statement. He's just been more influential to the sport in the sense to the actual sport. Jeter brought the sport back into relevance, and Trout owes him. Everybody in baseball owes him from the minors in single A all the way to the upper echelons of of Yankee Stadium. I
I
think
agree.
everyone
I agree.
owes Jeter, but I think what he has done, what Trout has done for the truly passionate fans of this sport has been bigger.
You could argue that. I mean, I agree and disagree with that. I mean, without Jeter, the MLB would not be what it is today, and he will always be such an influential piece to the game of baseball. And so will Trout. So will Trout.
Yeah, definitely.
We're gonna end it here. Thank you all for watching, and a big thanks for Tommy for coming back.
Yeah, I'm so grateful.
Thank you all for watching. I'll see you next week. Bye.
Bye.